Well, welcome everybody. I have on my computer, it pops up and does say 8:30 in the morning here. Welcome back I hope everyone had an enjoyable summer. And it always goes too quick in the New England and the Northeast. And with a storm rolling through, it will let us know that things will be chilly and we may not be taking a quick dip in the lake, as I happened to do that last evening and enjoyed it, knowing it may be one of the last ones. So, anyway, we have enough for a quorum. John is the only one missing. Am I correct, Debbie?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sure he'll be jumping on in a moment or two, but we have a very full agenda today. And so with further ado, we will start the September 13th, 2023 meeting of the Connecticut Appraisal Commission will begin. We are going to go out of order today because there's been a request or two on some areas to address, and there's some time issues that come into play, and we're going to try to respect those. But first and foremost, we have to review the previous minutes. And were there any, let me work backwards, July 12th, 2023 of our last meeting, are there any edits, corrections, modifications that are needed to be brought forth either by members of the commission or staff? Hearing none. Oh, is there? I didn't mean to cut anyone off. Good morning, John.
No, I don't have anything.
Okay. Hearing none, can I get a motion for the July 12th, 2023 minutes to be accepted?
I'll make the motion.
I'll make that motion.
All right. Norris would beat in. Was that Jennifer? Was that you on the second?
It was. I'll take the second. Yep.
All right. Thank you, Jen. On a second, discussion by members of the commission. Hearing none. Ayes?
Aye.
Nays?
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay, aye. And Maria, just to let you know, you're on mute. Okay.
Sorry. Hi.
No problem. Also on the agenda was the June 14th, 2023 minutes to be looked at. Any modifications, edits, or whatnot for the June 14th, 23 minutes, either by members of the commission or staff? Or in general public as well. I'm sorry, didn't mean to exclude anyone. Hearing none, can I receive a motion to accept as presented by members of the commission?
I'll make the motion again.
All right, Norris has made a motion. Can I have a second?
Second.
Maria is on the second. Any discussion by members of the commission? Hearing none, I call the vote to ayes. Ayes.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Nays, abstentions. That moves forward. Very good. We have a unique request, and we're going to do our best to honor it here, given that someone here must be in court in a few minutes. And we are going to then move a little bit out of agenda because they are on the stand or in the courtroom in another 26 minutes or thereabouts. So we're going to go under new business number 4, Ryan Johnson, RCG applicant, review of sample selections, and as supervisor of RCG, Jim Fisher, and RCG, Mark Gotteiner. So I believe one or a couple of you are having that fun thing called being in court. So that being the case, could they please be admitted into the meeting? Their microphones unmuted, and we can get to see their faces. And I would assume that Mr. Johnson is with us this morning. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, sorry, it might say Michelle because I'm kind of borrowing my wife's gear here, but that's me.
Okay, very good. Are you able to get on camera for us?
I'm on camera here in the red maroon shirt. Jim, are you here?
I'm here. I'm on audio. I'm in my car, and I just heard the opening comments.
All right. Very good. So, when I hear Jim, is that, for the record, please, Mr. Johnson and Mr. Fisher, I need you to give your name, spelling of your last name, and your business address for each, please, for the record.
Okay, my name is Ryan Johnson, Johnsson. Business address is 89 Hamden Road in Summers, Connecticut, 06071.
Thank you. Mr. Fisher?
James F. Fisher, Realty Advisors, 785 William Street, number 128, Longmeadow, Massachusetts, 01106.
Okay. And is Mark Gottendiner, is he with us as well? I see his name is listed on the agenda.
Mark is just texting me right now saying he needs me to forward him that email link again, so I'm going to do that right now.
Thank you very much. Understanding and respecting that some or at least one of you will be in a courtroom in a few minutes, we will, in the essence of time, start to move forward here. Members of the commission, are there anyone want to start asking questions on Mr. Johnson's sample selections of work, or would you want me to start?
Jerry, I got a question. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
One of those is from Mr. Fisher is a broker's price opinion. Is that what you're going to address?
No, I was getting into one of the reports, John. Okay, where I was going to get specific into a certain report.
Okay, why don't you go first and then I'll address this other one.
Fair enough. Okay. Mr. Johnson, I'm looking, or looked, I have notes here from the property at 162 Maple Street
Yes,
in Ellington. Do you have that report?
yes, I do.
Okay. I'm just gonna, I just saw some observations here that I want to bring forward and moving forward in the career. On page 5, you
But
make
Jerry,
note of.
Jerry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but is Mark, isn't that from Mark did that report with you?
That's correct, yes.
Mark's not on yet. Should we wait?
Okay. I would, John, we're going to keep moving forward.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Were you a primary participant, or what kind of what was your work on this assignment, Mr. Johnson?
So Mark and I both inspected this together, interior and exterior. He assisted with comp selection, income and expense information, but I took the lead on this and wrote the report and all that stuff.
So this is a fair representation of your work product in your mind?
This was the first assignment I did with Mark early on in the process, but yes, I would say it's relatively fair, sure.
Okay. My question is, and when we look at this, and I understand when we're appraisers, sometimes we like to take previous reports and use them as a template to move forward, but that's when we kind of get into some oops moments can occur. And I just want to make note for your career moving forward. If you take a look at page 5, you make reference to the Tolland assessor's office. And then on page 7, you get back and calling it the Ellington assessor's office. So when you're going to be, it's just a word of caution, so to speak, here to look out for those type of situations. Okay.
Yes, thank you. Tolland is a typo.
Yeah. Page 41. I'm going to take a look. You talk about mortgage rates and lending and so forth, and we're in one of those markets today and have been for a year or so, with interest rates rising and so forth. Take me through the process of how you came to a 5 3/4 interest rate and so forth. How did you come to those parameters when you were developing cap rate through the formula basis?
So for the equity portion of it, excuse me, I was mainly on the prior page. I looked at some of the safe rates and then some of the more risky bond rates, and kind of just interpolated what I thought was a reasonable expectation from an investor for this type of industrial kind of manufacturing building.
Okay. Um, I noticed on page 47 of that report, you had a qualification in there that it appears that there was a previous appraisal done and then you were re-instructed to then just do an as is. Am I understanding that correctly in one of
Yeah,
those
so
conditions?
yeah, so originally when we were when Mark and I were asked to do this assignment, they were going to build self-storage units on this property. So we were going to do the appraisal, the as-is improvements of the industrial building, and then we were going to do subject to construction of the self-storage. Halfway through the assignment, that was changed, and then we just changed it to be just as is without including the self-storage at all. And that's why I kind of put that in there just as disclosure.
Okay, which was good because I had a big question when I looked at the pictures, and you have a picture in the in your picture section, or a caption saying, you know, for future development or construction site, and then we had no cost approach. And when I'm seeing, you know, proposed construction, I would have expected to see something in the cost approach, but it wasn't until deep into the report that I see, you know, again, one of those uh-ohs when you start doing an appraisal report and things like this, it hits on a dime, you have to change direction. It's one of those things, just a word of caution that to look at it from stem to stern, if you know what I'm
Okay.
saying here. Okay. Uh, that is my questions here on that. I will open up to other members of the commission for other questions.
Anybody else? Can I jump in? I
Feel
got a
free.
couple, John Gallagher, a couple of questions. In line with that hypothetical condition that Jerry was just, you just addressed, I just want to make a caution on page 7. You mentioned about, if you go to page 7, you mentioned about the make an extraordinary assumption, but then you make a kind of a general assumption. And I just wanted you to be cautious going forward, the difference between, you know, review what an extraordinary assumption is and a general assumption. Sometimes the Ellington Assessor's Office property records were relied on for the subject's GBA and building sketch for the existing industrial building. That's kind of a general assumption. Unless there's something unique about that, you really wouldn't be putting that underneath the extraordinary assumptions.
Okay.
I'm also familiar with this building because I have appraised this over the years, and I know it's pretty. I had a problem with this and a couple of the other reports in that I don't think you're that detailed. I think your reports are very minimal, if that. And you know, we have standard 1, which is the evaluation analysis. And we have standard 2, which is the communicating of the report. And I didn't get a feel for the site, anything about the approvals that may be in place for the self-storage. I didn't get anything in the building description describing that there's a second floor and the build out that's there. You jump and mention at one point that it's 2 tenants, and then it isn't until the income approach where you find out that both those tenants are occupied by the property owner's business. And then on your sales, you kind of focus on more sales and service buildings that are kind of on, you know, really good locations. Sale 1 you mentioned that it has a wellness center in it, and there's no indication of how that impacted the value, the price of that particular sale. So I having problems with this report. And then, you know, the other issue is in you did another report on 5 Angina, and you used a vacancy rate over there at 12.5%, and then here you use a vacancy rate of 5%, and there's really no discussion on it. You mentioned in one of the sales that you confirmed it in CoStar, which indicates that you might have CoStar data, but there's no discussion on anything on the market, the local market, or anything like that. It's just blank statements. It's almost as if this is very close to being just a restricted use report, in my opinion, as opposed to a full narrative report.
Mr. Johnson, would you like to respond?
Sure. There was a lot there. In regards to the 2 businesses, I did try to put a comment on the breakout of those 2 tenants on page 22 under the improvements description summary at the bottom, where I said one of them is Allen Tools, one of them is Seals. That the current owner built the property kind of to suit those two businesses. He kind of owns both businesses himself, the building owner, the property owner. I guess in regards to the, there was more detail in regards to the permitting and such for the self-storage originally, but this appraisal report was revised. And basically, Mark and I took all that information out because we thought, since we were not including it in the value, it would kind of be inappropriate to leave it in there. But like that's why I kind of just left that piece in the there's a certification, I think, at the end that the appraisal was revised, and originally we had considered those things, but I don't know. Maybe do you think I should have left a lot of that literature in there and then just said we're not including it in the value? Or
Well, if the property has approvals and you're not acknowledging it, whether there's value to the approvals or not approvals, it should be disclosed somewhere. If your scope of work says that, hey, you know, the scope of work, the client specifically requested us to omit that, then it should be part of your scope of work. There's nothing in there indicated. It's not until you get to the end of the report where you figure this out. That's what I'm saying. We have standard 2, which is about communicating the report. I didn't find like much of that was being communicated. It kind of left you in the dark until you got to the very end.
okay, so I probably should have put it in more within the scope of work about the self-storage.
Well, your supervisor should be explaining that to you. Yeah, it should be somewhere in the report, in the beginning of the report. I know this format's a little unique in that you start out with the highest and best use at the beginning of the report, as opposed to discussing all the items that a highest and best use requires, such as zoning and et cetera, and then the site description and the building description, and typically you get to your highest and best conclusion. This one kind of starts up front, which is okay, I guess, but you don't have enough information in your descriptions to actually describing, especially this self-storage issue, or this, whether it's a self-storage or any kind of approval, whether it's surplus land or excess land. You don't mention anything about land to building ratios in any of your reports and your site descriptions, yet you're adjusting for them in your sales comparison approach underneath these reports, not the ones done by Mr. Fisher.
Any comments, Mr. Johnson?
Um,
I don't want to cut you off. Okay,
No,
I want
no
to make sure you got.
in regards, putting the land, I would, yes, I've taken what you're saying, and I could perhaps discuss more land to building ratio on all of these assignments. Yes.
This is Mark Gottesdiener. I can't log in. I've always had trouble with Teams I've had a couple of cases with the state on Teams and it never works. We were doing this for the credit union who was not necessarily restricted, but it was based on being a client and being what the credit officer wanted, and so I think you're being a little, well, you have your point, gentlemen, about what you're saying, but it was not necessarily restricted report, but we had certain guidelines that kept changing with the credit union. So I was comfortable with what Ryan and I were doing.
Okay. John, are there other questions, or I'm going to open this up to other members of the commission?
I have no more questions on this report. I do have a couple others, and I know Mr. Fisher has to jump off, so I do want to address one of his reports.
Please do then.
All right. Is Mr. Fisher here?
Yeah, yes, I am.
Hi, Mr. Fisher. Gentlemen, one of the reports you guys had was a broker price opinions, 40, I forgot to write down the address of which report it was. I'm sorry, I thought I had it open.
It's okay. It's 901 Southampton Road. In Westfield.
Right. So This one, Jerry, is more or less to us. This is a broker's price opinion. And in Massachusetts, they probably maybe do something differently than here, but they're he indicates that this is a value, in a real estate listing price analysis report. It's not an appraisal, yet it references value at some point. Do we accept broker price opinions as experience credits? I've never seen it.
If it's allowed in the state that it's located. John, over the years, we've maybe come across this no more than a handful of times. I just dealt with it on a 7:30 call this morning in Missouri. Okay, it's funny you should bring that up. I can't remember. It's been years since we last dealt with this, but as I was informed, an hour ago or a little over an hour ago, that in those states that it is, it is part of the experience portion that is taken into consideration, but you can't have a majority of the work product representing that as the entire experience core.
So
I
Jerry,
learned that about an hour ago.
comment on this one. So Jim and I originally completed this as an appraisal report, and the reason for the report was a potential listing. Jim Fisher, who's on the call, can speak to this, is also a broker. After we completed the appraisal report, Jim was going to act as a broker in this assignment, and at that point, we changed it to a broker's price opinion. And I explained this to Debbie when she requested this one, and because I thought maybe you'd have an issue with it, I gave you another appraisal report from Jim as another one to look at.
Mm-hmm.
But this was originally an appraisal report, and when I submitted my log to the state at that time, it was an appraisal report, and then we actually changed it over to a BPO because Jim was going to list the property for sale.
All right, on your log, I don't have any problems with any of the Mr. Fisher reports. I have two questions. One is, how many on the log from Mr. Fisher are these actual broker price opinions that were this way as opposed to being?
Yeah, this is a unique one.
Okay, the next question is, on Mr. Fisher's reports, how much of the work do you actually do? For instance, take us back to the one that was the tax appeal one that you submitted.
Okay, the tax appeal in Springfield, Mass. I did a lot of the work on this. I would say greater than 70%. Jim and I inspected the property together, and I met with the assessors on this and gathered data with them in the city of Springfield. Jim, of course, helped much in the analysis, both the income approach and picking sales data. He's very familiar with Springfield and the rental data, so he was a huge help with that. But I would say I completed a significant amount of the work. And maybe Jim can comment on that. I don't know.
Yes, I would agree that Ryan did fully participate in all those areas, that he did 70% of the work, and I was more the reviewer on that assignment.
All right, Jim, under you, has he done any work where he's done the complete analysis and you just happen to do maybe just 5% of it or so, just proofing and fixing typos or stuff?
Yes, that was more. I believe there were more industrial properties that where that occurred, and I was quite pleased with how he progressed and basically was delivering to me a 90% complete project, and it was more me kind of struggling with the final range of value, but all the necessary data was there for me to support that conclusion.
Thank you.
Okay. John, any other questions before other commission members?
No.
Okay. Other commission members, Jen, Maria, Norris, any questions that you may have for Mr. Johnson? No? Yes?
Nope, anything I had has already been addressed.
Okay, very good. Okay. Well, we're at the point here. Do I hear a motion in any way, form, or matter? And Mr. Johnson, just so you know, as chairman, obviously you heard me ask questions. I should have said this right up front to begin with. I only vote in the event there is a tie. Okay, so I just wanted to make you aware of the process here. And the same thing will happen for Amy Thornton later this morning here. So that being the case, members of the commission, is there any discussion, thoughts, motions that want to move forward here?
Jerry, it's John. Mr. Johnson, I read the reports, and I have a lot of issues. I know that the five, I never pronounced this name right, Angina Drive, that one was readdressed to the commission. I understand that. But I would expect that report, if it was being readdressed to the commission, to have more detail. On the one report that you had the cost approach in, and I thought it very, very just short to the point. I mean, there's no support for a lot of the stuff, unlike the Mr. Fisher reports where there seemed to be more detail, more explanation, more analysis, et cetera. So, and like Eric said earlier, we have standard one, which is the appraisal process, which I think you got, but the standard two is the communication process, which I think is not coming through to me fully on the thing. So I'm not willing to make a motion to accept the work yet. I think he needs to submit some more reports that are more detailed and more analysis to kind of demonstrate to us that he, has what it takes. Because once you get certified, you're out there writing reports on your own. And from what I've seen, Mr. Fisher mentioned that the report you did the 70%, not to 100%. And then on the other ones, I just don't see. Even though a client may dictate, just a limited amount of analysis. If it's that limited, it should be a restricted use. That's your call there. That's what the market is. But still, it's no excuse. You're submitting this stuff to us. I would expect that the one addressed to us would have more detail in it, so demonstrating what you actually know.
Any other comments from other members of the commission? Hearing none. Mr. Johnson, before we do anything, give you a last bite of the apple. Anything to be said?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, that was obviously the reports that I submitted to you folks were just a very small sample. I'd be happy to provide others that maybe would substantiate the desire for more detail with some of these. In regards to the 70%, I mean, that was just maybe that's a conservative estimate. I don't know. I would say I certainly would took the lead in all these appraisal assignments, and yeah, maybe 70% was just an estimate. That's it.
Okay. John, would you want 3 more reports submitted?
Yeah, I guess I'd like to see 3 more reports, but more importantly, this 5 in Giant Drive. If you've already addressed this one to us, I would expect, why don't you just take this one and just enhance it and show me that you can actually do the work. Show us that you can do the work. Show more adjustments. Your sales just show basically just state information that anybody can get. The grantor, grantee, there's no indication you check financing to see if there's any financing influence. There's no indication that you check. I mean, one of the reports, it was a portfolio sale. And you have no indication that the price was an odd number, but it was an allocated price if it was actually reflective of the market value of that particular property. I mean, it's just not enough. You got to, if you want to take that one, and then if you say you have others, if you could show us one with a cost approach in it that has a detailed cost approach, and then and then maybe a third that you feel is your best reflection of your work that you did on your own, and then and that your supervisor had to do few changes. One of those two, I'd appreciate it.
Any other comments from members of the commission? Because I'm looking at the time and I know that someone's got to be in the courtroom in a moment or two. Are we in concurrence with John's thoughts, members of the commission? You guys are, I guess, on mute. Okay.
Yes.
Nope,
Okay,
I'd be
Maria?
good with that. It'd be helpful to see another
Okay.
cost approach.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, if you could forward that over to Debbie, they head to you, is that correct?
Now,
And
Mr. Johnson, if you need a couple of months, I don't know what your 6-year cycle is, but you don't have to, if it's going to be too much of a pressure to have this for our next meeting, you can have it for the, if you need a couple of months or something, just let us know what you need. I'm okay with that too. I'd rather you take the time, get it right. So next time we review it, we're having no issues.
Okay.
okay, Mr. Johnson, any questions on your part?
No questions.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day, folks. Thank you for everyone's time. Since we
Thank
are
you.
in here and we have other people in the queue, as I look as it goes its thing here, I'm going to have us then look at Amy Thornton, please. Is Miss Thornton with us here? I saw her earlier, I believe.
Yes, I am.
Good morning. Can you bring yourself up on and your supervisor, Ms. Perry?
Yes,
I think I
hi.
saw her early. Good morning. Good
Good
morning.
morning.
For the record, please, Ms. Thornton, could you give your name, spelling of your last name, and in place of employment? And Ms. Perry, the same thing once Ms. Thornton is done, for the record.
Amy Thornton, Thornton, with Perry Real Estate Appraisal Services, 4 Stein Street, Thompson, Connecticut.
Thank you.
06255.
Ms. Perry?
Nicole Perry, Perry, Perry Real Estate Appraisal Services, 4 Stein Street in Thompson, Connecticut, 06255.
Thank you very much. Ms. Thornton, you have submitted an application for the RCR applicant, and you have forwarded some samples to us. And as I mentioned before, you've listened to how the process goes. Again, I should have said this up front. As chair or acting chair, I can only vote in the event of a tie. Okay, just to make you aware, but still have the ability to ask questions left, right, and sideways. So, and I will. But instead of me starting off this time, I'm opening up to other members of the commission if you have any questions that you would like to ask Ms. Thornton. Hearing none. Do you want me? Okay, then I will start. I looked at the property at 60, is it Kodiak Lane in Massachusetts?
Milford, Mass. Correct.
In Milford, thank you. Okay. When I was looking at that report here, and I was looking at your, let me just say this. This is a copy of the report that was given to the client. Is that correct? Or am I in error now?
No, this is what went to the client. Correct.
Okay, and this is representative of your work product? You did all the work or a vast majority of the work, or am I, what does this represent?
This is representative of my work. I did the majority of the work, and then of course Nicole reviewed and made any suggestions at that point in time.
Okay. It's a unique situation here that when we see a report being transmitted to the client, that we didn't see the signature of Ms. Perry on there. It was only yours, and being in Massachusetts, a trainee. I know many clients don't allow only, not even the trainees, some to even sign the report. We call them provisionals in this state here. Is this a common practice in Massachusetts that you're the only signature that is required?
With some clients, correct.
Okay. It's we don't see that often, and that was a question for my clarification and understanding. When I looked at the in the adjustments here and on the page, you will see where you in the grid you would put forth, total number of rooms, number of bedrooms, and baths and whatnot, and you would make an adjustment for it appeared to me for size. Am I correct with that?
Correct.
on square footage? Okay.
Yeah.
Where in the report would you take into account not only this report or any report for a utility adjustment versus, I have 6 rooms, even though I may be same square footage or something versus 5, or 2 bedrooms versus 3. How do you address the utility of a property? Where do you take that into the adjustment process? Not only for this report, but I want to know how you handle this for general look at things.
So in this particular report, all of the comparables had the exact same number of bedrooms, full baths and half baths.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of if there was an extra room or den that was accounted for in the square footage difference, if one of the comps, say, had a 3rd bedroom, then that would be a utility adjustment. And then I would take a look at the differences in the selling prices between 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms for a similar year built and location to extract that adjustment.
Okay.
But I would put it on the line item right in the room counts.
Okay, so would that be, and I'm talking in general speaking here, so that would be a separate adjustment versus the size on the square footage that you have in this particular grid?
Correct, if it was warranted.
Okay, exactly. I'm just asking, the process is what I was asking here. Okay, thank you. I turn it over to other members of the commission. I didn't mean to dominate the questioning here. Any other questions for Ms. Thornton from members or Ms. Perry from the commission?
I went through the ones I looked at. I didn't see anything that really jumped out at me. And Amy, you're doing this analysis completely yourself?
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Thornton, may I jump in? Another question. What areas do you cover? What is your geographical expertise, for lack of a better phrase, or I guess expertise? Where are you covering?
Worcester County, primarily Massachusetts, and then of course the quiet corner of Connecticut. I'm a licensed real estate broker going on 16 years, and that's been my market territory, so I'm very familiar with both those areas, but I sort of stick to those 2.
I understand, as I'm sitting in the other quiet corner of Connecticut, so I understand that phrase all too well, but on the different side. Thank you. I have no other questions. Maria, Jen, Norris, any questions or thoughts from your perspectives?
I read all the reports and nothing jumped out at me either.
Okay.
That's good.
Maria and Norris, you're all fine?
I'm fine.
Okay. Can I entertain a motion, please, on the application of Amy Thornton, RCR, license applicant?
I'll make the motion.
To
I'll second.
Norris, you're making the motion to what? To accept?
Oh, I'm sorry. To accept. Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. All right.
I'm sorry.
All right. And Jen, was that you or was?
Going to reject her.
Okay. All right. Was that Jen or Maria who made the second? I'm sorry.
That was myself, Jen. Yep.
Okay. So we have a motion to accept by Norris, as second by Jen. Any comments or questions or concerns or anything to be said by members of the commission? I should have said this earlier also. Anything from staff that we should be aware of before a final vote is cast? Hearing none, I will call the motion before us to vote. Ayes?
Aye.
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 Nays? Abstentions? Congratulations, Ms. Thornton. That's a nice smile. Thank you again, Ms. Perry, for your time. And I will then defer you, Ms. Thornton, to talk to Debbie here on the next processes and procedures that will go forth. And you will probably hear from her after this meeting, but it may be whenever you know, it's going to be one of those days today scheduled for her. So whenever it works, I'm sure the two of you will be talk. And Debbie, is there anything you want to add at this moment or?
Nope.
Okay. Thank you. Congratulations. And I wish you nothing but a very successful career. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All
Congrats.
right. All right. Well, since we're into the new business, is there anybody else, and help me out, Debbie, that needed for us to go through the review of their samples?
Peter Daniel Booth.
Okay, yeah, we're to review the log and sample selection, correct?
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. Ryan Johnson and Amy Thornton were the only applicants that you were reviewing samples of. So
That's what I thought. I just want to
Yep.
make sure I didn't miss something,
Mhm.
okay? And I've
Yep.
missed things before a number of times. So, okay, while we're at it, I'm going to then go right to the top of the new business, okay? And then we'll work ourselves right in. We'll get done with new business. Then we'll get back into things here. Therese Rutherford, RCG 650 is seeking equivalent CE for the following course, Fair Housing 7 hours. I can tell you if you're in New York State and you need to get your license, you have to take this. I went through it as well this spring. Just an FYI, once you do go through the 7 hour component, then you are required to take a 3 hour every couple years. And there are some unique things in the New York state law that did you require to take the 7 hours or the 3 hours? Could you be grandfathered through and not have to take the 7 hours? It is a great gray, murky area. Bottom line is most, and I did as well. We sit through the 7 hours. Okay, it's just part of the law of where we are, you know, with New York State. And I have zero, you know, issues because I sat through it as well. But others may have other questions from either staff or other members of commission. I bring that forward on the table.
I have no questions. I make a motion that we just accept the 7 hours for Teresa Rutherford for the Fair Housing Racial Bias course submitted. And then
Okay.
also as part of that, anybody who comes forward who has also taken it, that Debbie could approve it.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Maria is the
Yes.
second. Okay, discussion. Does that work for you, Debbie? What John is trying to do is help you out, but does that cause any burden on your end?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Okay,
But
very good.
going forward though, if I automatically approve them, do I still have to just put it on the agenda for the record? That's the only thing. No?
I
John's
would
shaking
think,
his head no.
yeah, I know. I would think to be safe, it probably wouldn't hurt just to have it that this is who you
Okay.
approved. Okay. In case someone ever comes back 5 years from now and saying, what happened to Teresa Rasmussen? I'll pick on her. She's out of your sight. So I can say things, her name, and did she ever take it or didn't take it? We have it on the record for them for
Okay.
something down the road. That's my one thought on that.
All righty. Thank you.
Any other comments, members of the commission or staff? Hearing none, can we vote for this? Ayes,
Aye.
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 nays, abstentions. So Miss Rutherford has 7 hours of CE. The next number 2 on the list on the new business is Victoria Brennan, RCR 77, is seeking equivalent CE for the following course, CCMA Course 4 Revaluation. Any thoughts or concerns or comments by members of the commission? Hearing none. Any from staff?
Can Jen say?
I have a quick question actually.
Yeah, please. Okay. Yeah.
Have you guys in the past approved CCMA classes?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I mean, if anybody has questions about the course, I'm happy to answer any questions you have about it.
Is this class educational and real estate appraisal applicable? Do you have no problem proving this for?
I would say, so this course, it very much centers on the law of reevaluation in Connecticut and how you conduct the project. So are you familiar with IAAO educational offerings?
Yes.
I would not say that this is as in depth as like IAAO 331, which really gets into like modeling concepts. Some of those more advanced reval courses that IAAO offers. I think this definitely focuses more on, it is a requirement for any assessor or anybody in the assessment field that wishes to become certified, whether it's your first designation or your second. But it really focuses more on the law, the procedures, whether you're doing a full measure and list, if you're doing phase-ins. I wouldn't go so far as to say that it has a ton of appraisal, because of how we map out our education is those appraisal concepts are handled in the classes that you would take prior to reval.
And so my question, F2 then,
Mhm.
like what Jen just said, is I know that Shauna in the past, there were certain classes that she has not given credit for. So have we given credit for this class before? Anybody?
I can't say with certainty, John. I know we've give credit for others, but I can't say with certainty here. How many hours are they seeking for this class?
4 hours.
Only 4 hours?
Mhm.
Interesting.
So maybe
It's
they're
a
just,
full week course.
so
So-
Let me
maybe
just double check.
What,
Can I just double check her email?
Jen, you took this for a whole week?
Yes, it's a Monday through Thursday, and then you sit for the exam on Friday.
How many hours
They
a
also
day?
just recently, I think they offered this virtually. I don't know if she took it in June
How
or
many
if she
hours a
was in
day?
the recent.
How many hours a day was this when you took it for the whole week?
It's 7 or 8 hours a
And
day.
they only want 4 hours?
No, excuse me. I misread the email. She wants 18 hours. I don't know where the heck I got 4 hours from. I must
Okay,
have
no
been
problem.
blurry.
That's a little bit different.
So
18
for a
hours.
28 or 30 or 32-hour course, whatever that may be, and I love your dog there, they're only looking for 18. Is there 18 hours of meat in there in that course, Jen?
There is. I mean, I guess I would ask you guys again, being a new member of the board. I know just from the few meetings that I've attended up to this point that you've approved some stuff or some educational content when it pertains to whether it's litigation or hearings. I mean, I would say if appraisers are doing work, or obviously, they get hired often as a client in the revaluation process when taxpayers are submitting appeals, I could certainly see how they might gain an understanding of how assessors approach revaluation projects and our laws, our deadlines, our parameters, how we need to certify our revals to the state. But again, they don't get very heavy into the appraisal work of mass appraisal in terms of really getting into the modeling. How are you arriving at your land residuals, or how are you coming up with your land curve, your depreciation tables? It's not like that type of in-depth mass appraisal education.
Well, we in the past have also given, as things evolve and change as time goes forth, we've given approval for drone inspections and so forth. It's another thing of what we do in our business, and how I'm using that as an example, how things evolve. Does this material help? The bottom line is, I'm in my mind, I asked the question, does this help an appraiser understand his or her business better? Are they improving themselves? And I guess that's the fun. And then if I do say yes to that question, then the next question I say, as I peel back the onion, is, does this help them to be more professional to help the general public at large? And that's why we're here. So I asked those two questions.
I would definitely say that it would help in terms of having an understanding of where the assessor's office is operating from, what data we use, what sales we use, what, the timelines for how we approach it. Obviously, it focuses very heavily on law, which I would find to be helpful for any appraiser that's going to be hired, to try to justify values in a revaluation, whether it's something that the town hires or on the appellant side.
Any questions or concerns from other members of the commission?
My only concern is that I know there's been a couple times in the past where Shauna has spoken up and say, no, this one doesn't qualify, but this one does. And I don't see enough here to know if that's one of those. I mean, I just hate to prove it and find out. I mean, it was only a few months back when Shauna said no to something. So is there a way to, can we make a
Well,
motion?
John, we've got to go with, the members who are here.
Yeah.
And for the people and the material we have in front of them, to be fair.
All
Did
right.
they submit, and I'm trying to go through what I have. They submitted the outline, right?
I just forwarded you the email that she sent me.
Yeah, the only other thing too is in that email, she refers to us as the licensing commission, a committee meeting and approved by a committee. And we have these law modules that we require everybody to teach, which are we referred to as the committee meeting? The Appraisal License Commission?
I have no idea. I mean, in our communication, you're always referred to as REAC or commissioners or commission, appraisal commission, never committee.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
do you think we should table this for next month? Just go back and look at, Jen, when I think about it, and I think about when you talk about the whole point about the law and the classes that teaches what you're learning about is the law part of it. That gives
It's a
me
big part of it.
That gives me a, Jerry, Mr. Chairman, you talk about learning, and I just view this as, if this is going to help the appraisers learn more, let's take that next step. But if everybody's not sure on this, let's deal with this next month. If we need to see more, if they need to come back with us, let's see more of this before we make this final decision.
As I'm reviewing the outline, just because I didn't have it right up in front of me, so I apologize. You can see that they do touch on modeling and land formatting, neighborhood delineation, and things like that. A lot of our data analysis. So it's not only law, but as you can see in a 4-day course, I'm sure, as you all know, mass appraisal, you're not going to learn everything there is to know about mass appraisal in 4 days. You really would need advanced education. So I wanted to be sure that I was honest in that this is an intro to reval. I think if you're comparing this to IAAO course offerings, this would be like their IAAO 300, which is, I think, their introductory reval course.
My quick question is this, I'm going to bring this up, and we could endorse what you're saying. If you're sitting through 7 hours a day or 8 hours a day, you're going to be from between 28 and 32 hours. And they're requesting 18, which is, depending on the mathematics, 56 to, 62 or 63% of the material. And that's why I just bring up trying to be reasonable here, of where we approve. So they're asking for 18 hours or something less. But if, Norris, you want to make a motion to table it and discuss it, and we get a second, that's fine with me. I'm just trying to be balanced here.
If Jen is okay with the 18 hours, I'm okay with the 18 hours. It's up to her.
I think 18 hours is reasonable. If they'd ask for the whole thing, I could certainly understand where you might have concerns, because there's a large portion of this that's much more assessor centered than, appraisal. But I think 18 hours is reasonable.
Do you want to make a motion to that?
Sure, I'll make a motion to accept for 18 hours.
Okay, motion by Jen. A second?
I'll second.
John, more discussion? Hearing none. Ayes?
Aye.
Aye.
Nays?
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay, we will give 18 hours to Miss Brennan. All right. Now we go down to number 5, and I'm getting there, Deb, from what we were saying. Peter Booth,
Yes.
RCR applicant, review of log and sample selection. Is the log in order?
It appears to be.
Okay. Are there sample selections from members of the commission who would like to have those being brought forth? Or do we want to provide that privilege to Debbie to ask for a sample of 5 or 6 or whatever selections?
Give it a Deb. Or
Okay.
Jen.
Okay.
Or Maria.
Okay. You okay with that, Norris, Maria, Jen?
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, Debbie, it's your call, okay? Run that
All right.
roulette wheel, and where it comes up, you say 17, 49, whatever it is. The one thing, and I'll speak for John, so I'll take the words out of his mouth, if we could at least see a cost approach somewhere in there.
Do we have to make a motion to accept Peter Booth's log?
I believe so.
Make a motion that we accept it.
I'll second
Okay.
it.
We have a motion by John, a second by Norris. Discussion. Hearing none. Ayes,
Aye.
Aye.
nays, abstentions. We are good to go. Very good. Number 6 on there, Ryan Richter, RSP 2046, is seeking extension of his provisional license. His 6 years are up on December 6, 2023. Is Mr. Riker with us this morning? Help me out, Deb.
I'm looking at the list here. It doesn't appear that he's online.
Okay.
He said that he was traveling today, so I'm not sure if obviously he's not online, so he must still be up in the air.
Okay, and members of the commission, I'm just going to throw my opinion out on here, and you can do whatever. When someone typically asks for an extension, we in the past have asked them to come before us to explain what other circumstances or the situation is, and we can have a candid two-way conversation so we get a better understanding. Was there, Deb, anything sent to you for the reasoning behind the request for an extension, and how much of an extension was being asked for?
Let me check, please. He said, I'll forward this to you, but he said between the pandemic, where he lost a lot of appraisal time, and the last 6 months of severely slowed down work, I worry I'm not on pace to have everything finished by the end of the year. Since my last email about 2 months ago, we still haven't seen an improvement in the amount of work we've received. So that's why I'll forward this to you.
My quick thought is, I applaud the gentleman for being proactive, and this is in our September, and he has till December, and concerned about it. But I do like the practice that we talk to them when they're before us. We can ask questions, and we get a sense and a feeling and so forth. So and you folks may think differently, and that's okay with me. I think it's one of those things we may want to table this to October and meet with Mr. Riker, to explain whatever the circumstances are, know where you are, where you're sure, if there's more classes, is experience. There's so many questions we just don't know, and it gets taken care of in 5 to 7 minutes usually. If you folks concur or disagree, that's okay. I just throw that on the table.
I agree.
I do too.
Okay.
I'm
Then,
fine.
all right, then, and Maria, you're okay with that as well?
Yes.
Okay, then why don't we table that, Deb, for the next
Okay.
meeting and
Mhm.
have him, meet with us. Okay,
Okay.
in fairness to him. Number 7, AQB, modifications of the QECE criteria effective January 1, 2026. And as much as we say that's way off, before you know it, it's here. Okay. So comments, thoughts, questions?
Um, I believe I sent you all the summary of actions that came out. And the only thing that I see is that, well, I mean, there's a lot of things in here, but the thing that I believe that we need to be working on ASAP is the fact that they have the requirement for the fair housing, an 8-hour fair house, well, 7 hours plus an hour test. From what this document said, that every appraiser for continuing ed is going to have to take a 7-hour valuation bias and fair housing law class, which isn't, there's none developed yet. We just, Vicky and I just sat in on the state regulatory meeting yesterday. And I asked them, I emailed them to see how it would affect us, because it goes into effect, the requirement goes into effect on January 1st, 2026, where January 31st, 2026 is our deadline for all CE courses. So that means like over 1,200 appraisers at today's numbers are going to be cramming for a class that's not even developed yet. So that was my concern. And then for QE, as of January 1st, 2026, they're going to have to take that 7-hour class with an hour test as part of their requirement. And the number of hours hasn't changed except for the provisionals. There's an addition of that class. What they did for the certified residential, they dropped the appraisal subject matter electives from 20 hours down to 12, and then you add the 8 hours in, you're still up at the same. And then the same with the general. They did the same thing with the general. They dropped the appraisal subject matter electives from 30 hours, dropped it to 22, and then added the 8. So you're still at the same.
This course kind of follows what we just approved with number 1 for New York, from New York State, from Therese Rutherford. This is the material that how New York jumped onto it. They
Yeah.
did not have an exam. I guess the exam is if you kept your eyes open through the whole 7 hours, you passed the exam. But other than that, they'll make their modifications. It sounds to me we're going to have to develop another course on top of it, and maybe ask for. And if Vicky is on, please to chime in, please ask for an extension, right up front from when the auditors come, that we have it in the process where our law is changed and so forth, and let's be proactive on it now, for that next cycle. So then we start, the schools led by Jackie in this state have, how many times has she been out there and others saying, hey, you got to have your CE done by the end of January this cycle. You can't wait till April. We remember we granted ourselves an extra extension for people on this if we're just being proactive to try to get that message out. And as hard as we as a commission, as staff, as the educational providers in the state have tried like holy heck to be proactive, come heck or high water, come February 1st, you're going to hear 6 or 8 or a dozen people said, I didn't know. And we've only been broadcasting it for 4+ years. So, Deb and or Vicky, am I barking down the wrong tree of maybe trying to already ask for an extension right now to really so we don't get dinged on the audit, or thoughts on that matter by anybody? I just open it up.
No, I don't think, I don't think it's unrealistic. I will say that my understanding is that there has been some discussion about having some of the work to be outsourced, if you will. So I think that's on the table, but I have to get a little bit more clarification as to what the direction is on those
You mean from
matters.
the state, from Vicky, you mean from the state
Yes.
outsourcing? Okay,
Yes. Mhm.
okay. So that adds another layer
Correct.
to the mix. Okay. Members
I'd
of the
also,
commission, or
oh,
Debbie,
sorry.
go ahead. I'm sorry,
I'd
Debbie, I didn't mean
also
to cut
like
you off.
to mention, I didn't want to say until I actually found what page it was on, but on page 4 at the very top of the page, the first full paragraph, it also says that going forward after the first 7-hour course with the test, going forward every 2 years, they need to complete a 4-hour course. So it's going to be a mandatory course along with the use PAP and then our Connecticut appraisal law update.
Okay. Well, we certainly like making it easier for our appraisers staying in the business, don't we? Boy, oh boy. I'm sorry. That was an editorial comment for those listening, that was John Galvin saying that. Okay.
No, it wasn't. It was not, because I think we need this class. I think
Yeah.
this is good. Um, so I got two quick questions. One, since it's a little foresight, is there a way to get this out to everybody who's teaching the law module to maybe add it in or something? Can we put a little blurb together and send it to them so that we're a little bit on the head of it, start being taught now? And then the second thing is, I guess questions too, Jerry, too. Isn't it, if New York is offering this class or something similar, they just have to have an exam and maybe fine tune it or whatever. Are there other states that offer this too? Because the reason why I ask this question is, if we're going to be proactive, if other states start offering the class ahead of us before Connecticut gets it out, if we have to rely on an outside source we have no control over the time. Couldn't we just start approving people to take it from other states before that January 1st, 2026 deadline?
I can say with 100%
I mean,
confidence,
it only
100% confidence that because I'm up to date on CE on every place in the country, and I don't always say that, because I'm always fighting deadlines. I'm good through the balance of this year on every state and so forth. That New York is the first and only state that I've had to take this examination, okay, for the 7 hours. California runs one at 4, which is part of their law, an hour for law, 3 in this world. Okay. And they had another one at 4 hours. Nevada has one at 3. There's one of the Dakotas, and I remiss which one that it is, had a smaller, but the only one that has gotten up to 7 at this point in time is New York, just to let you know. So this is really coming at, I think, the whole country as a wave, John, where we're at right now. So it's, you know what, let's get on top of it here. And when we say outsourcing, Debbie and Vicky, is this going to go out to bid and a school can put it together and therefore, or someone can put it together and therefore it's going to be, if we accept it, or whomever accepts it, the commissioner accepts it, then it gets disseminated to all the other providers or schools, or we don't know?
We don't know.
Yeah.
At this
Okay.
point, today as we speak, we don't know.
Okay.
I'm sorry. I don't
Are
have
we-
any further information. It was just
Yeah.
stated in passing when we were talking about, some areas that we could look at some other alternatives.
So along with Vicky just said, are we going to be required to develop this course like we are a law module, or will the market actually develop this class and then we start approving it?
I would think the latter, John. That's just me. That's just a gut reaction. Okay. Because New York State, they didn't develop it. They had to provide, someone put it together, and than it was offering. And in fact, it was they had a lawyer, do the teaching of it and so forth. This is kind of going down the same road like with Illinois. I remiss they went with theirs in 1 hour or 2 hour blocks. If you're in the state of Illinois, we had to take it for 1 hour. If you were domiciled, believe it or not, in Chicago, okay, if your company, that doesn't mean you or I, but if your company had a domiciled office in Chicago, you had to take the 1 hour for Chicago, excuse me, state of Illinois, then an additional 2 hours for the city of Chicago. It's the weirdest thing you'll ever want to trying to keep up on these laws, and it's all on this subject matter. It's all on the subject matter. And if those who will remember way back when we first had licensing in the 90s, we all had to sit through a 4 hour class of this. It was then it got dissipated and then it was brought back. Now we're coming back full scale, full circle here. Now, um, this is this is something we're going to have to get our arms around, and it's here. And again, I'm just talking out loud. And the one who is bouncing all over the country and trying to keep up on the CE and the hours, and it's the added chart in my, checklist for every state to make sure I'm up to stuff here. New York is the only one with a 7 at this point in time. Okay, that doesn't mean come January 1st I'm not taking for others, but they've said how they addressed it is they modified their courses. If it's Pennsylvania, Delaware, Jersey, as I just mentioned, they have those sections in here, but now everything's going to have to be amped up to 7. And let's also understand that we 7 or 8, whatever that is, with our law at 3 and our USPAP. Therefore, the elective number, as Deb kind of alluded to, is going to, shrink as well when we look at our, 28 hours as we look at it here. Okay. And listen, I know how Nevada has handled it. They've added the hours. Instead of going 28, they've added to 30 hours now every cycle. That's real popular, but it's the world we live in. So it isn't just a one box that was just brought up. Deb has brought this up. Look what and Vicky's just brought up another angle. We got a lot of things on the plate. It looks like a simple line item on number 7 on our agenda. It's a loaded line, in time, effort, resources, and thought. We got to think this through. What is correct? So that is. Maybe food for thought for us to table again. I don't mean to pontificate. I'm sorry, getting diarrhea of the mouth. But it's here. We're gonna have to deal with it. And but it's one of those things we just can't make a flippant decision. I think we ought to think about it and then have a further discussion next month, unless you folks think otherwise. Okay. I'm going to say I see Miss Bouchane has her hand up and Steve Sosa has their hand up. So could we let either one go on first and hear what they have to say on the matter? One was Miss Bouchane and 2 is Steve Sosa. So could we allow is Jackie unmuted?
Good morning, commission members. In listening to your conversation, I tend to agree with the latter that I would think that schools slash approved providers in the state will be working on developing a 7-hour program, seeing as it's going to be an AQB requirement. I don't know again, it wouldn't preclude the state from probably developing their own and having the schools and the state use that. But I would assume that that schools will or have already started to develop one of those programs.
Yep.
But again, it's at the pleasure of the commissioner how they want to handle it and what their choice is. But it might be where you won't have to go through those efforts, because I would assume schools will be putting those programs together. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is
Uh,
Steve
yes,
Sousa,
Steve.
and I just want to follow up on what Jackie just had to say. In discussions I've had with the AQB and the foundation, they're expecting the education providers to develop the courses in line with, I think they've published a syllabus for what the content should cover. And so we'll be looking, for example, at developing our own course as I'm sure, all the other education providers will be. And then we would end up submitting them to the states for approval, just as we do now for other continuing education courses. Um, and, I think probably the most important thing is for you folks to figure out whether or not you have to, amend your regulations, to accommodate these new AQB criteria items. And, you know, you know, doing that, even if you do it now and make it effective on January 1st, 2026, it at least gets you ahead of the game. So, but we will be working on our own course, just like all the other education providers. Because when we asked the ASB and the AQB if they were going to develop the course, their answer was categorically no. It's up to you folks to develop it. So, and by you folks, meaning the education providers.
Mhm.
So, okay, thank you.
Thank you both for your comments. I was just trying to do this in my head here. So our CE cycle, we have to have everything in by the end of January of 2024. Am I correct? For the
Correct.
licensing that goes until April 30th of 2024. That means on May 1st of 2024, we're going to get caught in this cycle. Okay. All appraisers will then on May 1st, when the flag goes down to start rebuilding it up again, you're going to have this course as part of your criteria because it goes into effect on January 1st of 2026. Am I missing the boat on this in the 2-year cycle? Because that would get us to January 30th to have our CE in by 2026. Kind of, Deb, what you opened it up with, the concern.
Yes. My concern that I feel needs clarification is, since it's a mandatory course like USPAP is, I had verified with Lisa, I forget her last name. She's got that beautiful gray hair, or white hair, what USPAP course to take, because we have the new USPAP coming out on January 1st. And people are asking, well, what if I take the current USPAP right now? And she said that the USPAP that they take on the day that they take it has to be the one that's in effect, and it will count towards their mandatory.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
with that, I'm thinking, is that going to be the same with this new fair housing course? Because if it doesn't go into effect, there is no mandatory right now. So if it doesn't go into effect until January 1st of 2026, does that mean that they have to wait until January 1st to take their course?
No. I would take it as soon as you can take it, because we do know that you're going to have it done in those. We fit in that 30-day window. All of a sudden now it's a mandatory. So I
Okay.
don't want to punish anybody, and get forced down here. If, say, Steve's folks or Jackie's team or AI or whoever, Clispo, and they come up with a class and they're giving it in September of 2024, or September 2025, you take it. Common sense, I would think, you grant them. They've taken the course, they've met the spirit of the law, and that at the end of the day, that is fine here, but that's my first thing. But anyway,
We're going to have
here
to
I'm
take
doing
a
too
note.
much
We're going to
talking.
have to send a notice to all of them that this is coming up then, so that they have the time to prepare.
Absolutely.
That's why I think
And
we
it
should
goes to
start.
back to what John was saying, with the people going to be teaching the Connecticut law or USPAP. I think it's in our state. Hey, folks, this is coming at us. Okay. And we'll do the darn best that we can. What can we say? Beginning today, trying to let folks know.
All right, I got a question on regulations, because and I guess maybe Mr. Sousa or Jackie could throw a little light at, if these courses aren't going to start being developed and it's going to take a while and they don't start coming out, say, until 2025. If we have to start changing our regulations, the reality is our regulations, Vicky, correct me, but it's usually around the middle of the summer that the regulations go up submitted for change, right? So if
Regulations can be done all year round.
all year round. So we don't
All
have to
year round.
worry about,
Statutes are done. Statutes are done in the
Right.
summer and we submit them, before the session, but our advisor or director asked that we provide all documentation for statutory changes, the end of August, first week in September. So right about now.
right,
For
so we don't change
statutory
statute.
changes. Regulations can be done all year round at any point in time.
So if we're going to address this, we should look at trying to get the regulation change no later than like the middle of, I would say like by Mayish of next cycle, when the gate comes down for the next cycle, so that everybody's aware of it.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, so that line, I know we have to jump up and talk about old business Pyrea. I think we should focus on maybe coming up with some timelines, because the year flies by, as Jerry says, on trying to come up with this regulation, these where we change it, where we add it, et cetera, in the regulations.
John, Steve Sousa here, real quick. Just to answer your question, I would think most education providers will have the 7-hour course done sometime early in 2024. It's just a matter of putting all the pieces together, and some of them, some of the larger ones like a McKissick may already have it pretty much well in hand. I can't speak for them completely. So we're all working on it. So
The industry thanks you, and Ms. Bouchane has her hand up. Can we unmute her, or the floor is yours?
This may or may not be the time to address it, but I know there's also been discussion about with CE being due the end of January.
Jackie, we will deal with that later.
Okay,
in this
perfect.
meeting.
Thank you. I wasn't
Okay.
sure if it was, okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
So the two things we have to discuss here is how we word the regulation, and two, do we really add the hours or include it in the 28?
I think it's included in the 28.
I don't know. I'm a little, I think we need to have a discussion on that, because in the next meeting or the meeting after, because I'm worried about people not, if they're all of a sudden they're taking the same basic classes. I mean, use PAP that's 14, 15, 16 hours of the 28. It only gives them 12 hours of electives. Anyway, that's not my thought. Another time for that.
Okay. Very good. So can we put this on our agenda for discussion to continue in our October meeting? And I think this will be continued again in the November meeting. So many questions, first time we're hearing of it, and you can see the market is addressing it and moving forward, which is good. Okay. Oh, I see Jackie's got her hand up again. Go ahead, Jackie.
No, sorry, I just didn't lower it.
Okay.
Sorry.
Fair enough. Thank you. All right then. Let's go back to old business. Maria, continue with our discussion here. Any thoughts by members of the commission? I have some strong ones, but I'm going to keep quiet for a moment.
I want to hear your strong ones.
Okay. I think we've kicked this can down the road long enough. We either fish or cut bait, and we either vote for it or not vote for it today. I do believe, though, we have an option to take into consideration, and that is the industry is looking for everything they weigh that they can expand one way or the other. We may agree or disagree with it here, but I think we ought to move forward as many states have. If we find it later that there are issues, we'll find out what those people are in the process. We can grandfather them to the end, and we can always shut it down. But I think at some point in time, if we want to approve it, let's approve it, and we can always come and readdress it. Or if we don't want to approve it, then we end it today. We've been talking about this for a year and a half, and I think in fairness to people in the industry, and that means people coming up, if they want to partake in this, let the market forces do what it is. I think, yeah, I do have concerns on the costs and the expenses and so forth, but let market forces go where they're at. That's my opinion. So I open it up for anyone else's thoughts.
This is John. I'm in agreement with you, Jer. I'm just concerned about the geocompetency portion of it, which that term is yet to be defined by anybody. But, and I'm wondering if, can we make just a suggestion as an option that we approve the PIREA, approve that the state of Connecticut accepts the PIREA program with the condition that at a later date, we figure out if we're still going to require them to take any, require any additional work be submitted from the local market.
You know, I think that's one of those things. That's why I said, John, if we had approved it, let me just say, if we went down that trail, I'm not trying to push us there. I'm just saying if we did, and we get down and we find something in 6 months from now that, yeah, there's an issue, we need to add to it. Do you know what I'm saying? Just exactly what you're saying. And there may be another item that none of us have thought of yet, that we need, it becomes now unintended consequences come to light. We can always go back and modify it. Now, and let's call it what it is. If we have a half a dozen people in this state go down this program in the next year, I'll be personally surprised. Okay, that's just me speaking. But if that's 6 or 10 or 12, whatever that number is, I think we can then grandfather them to go through that process, whatever it is, and then anyone after that number who's already begun it, then they have to follow whatever we find it. What you're just saying, local competency, or there whatever this other issue is, and I'm making that up. I don't know if there will be another issue, but there's been rarely do I see something that comes through that there are unintended consequences we never thought of, as much as we try to think outside the box. That's I think we're on the same page, John.
Yeah, I'm game with approving it and then writing the regulations around it. And, I mean, how many times have we gone back to people and asked them to write a report for their experience credits and address it to us just to show that they've
exactly.
And I
exactly.
think we could do, you're required to do 3 reports or something like that, maybe 2 for the general and 3 for the residential or something like that. But I think that's something we can write into we can discuss as we're forming the regulations changes around it. But I think I'm all for approving, accepting PIREA in the state of Connecticut.
Okay. Other members of the commission, feel free to jump in, and then I'm going to open it up to staff for their thoughts, and then the general public, So I'm going in a 3-step process here, okay? So for everyone to be heard. Maria, Jen, Norris, any thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, I've always had my issue. I've always had a issue with the cost component to this. So I'm still gonna have that issue. How much it costs for and remember, you guys take all the appraisers out there, they take so many courses, they spend so much money. And when I look at this, I've always had an issue from the beginning with the cost component with this. So that's how I feel. And
I'm with you, Norris. I hear you, but I think the market will dictate. People say it's too much
when
money,
you said that,
and they don't do it.
Mr. Chairman, when you said the market will dictate it, that's what I'm hoping for. The market will dictate it, because if you think there's going to be a half a dozen people, that means the market is dictating it, and the appraisers out there don't want to spend that type of money. So I'm inclined on letting the market dictate itself.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Maria and Jen, now you haven't had the privilege of having us discuss this for a year and a half, and you have, so you're coming into only a couple months of this, but your voices are equally important to be heard, and we'd like to hear your thoughts if you have any. And you're both on mute.
I think it's going to be kind of a fascinating study to see how it develops, to be honest. We, even in the assessment community, there's such a push for additional education requirements and training and offerings, and the state wants more and more of it, and it just seems like the appraisal umbrella industry as a whole, so to speak. I don't know how to avoid it. I think it's going to come forward in one shape or form or the other, and it'll just be really interesting to see how it develops.
Okay. Maria, any thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think, John, you mentioned that if we accept it with the condition that maybe we can add as deemed necessary, I think we should accept it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna, go ahead, John, go ahead.
Is, and I think this is more to Vicky and Debbie. If we do accept this, right now, there's only a PIREA program out there for the residential side. The commercial side the schools have yet to develop it. If we accept this, we can always revoke it, right? Correct?
That's correct.
Right. And the question then, which was one of my concerns in the beginning, was how do we control the schools that are, if they get approval from, I don't know, is it ADEC, whoever's approves them, then we just have to accept them. Do we have to accept? Can we write into the regulations that we as a commission, is this something we have a little flexibility in the regulations where we could write in that we as a commission have to accept each program as it comes out from each school? In other words, the Appraisal Institute, McKissick comes out with one, we accept theirs, or do we just put this doesn't put us in a blanket thing by making this motion, does it? And now we have to backtrack? Am I making myself clear?
Vicky, you're on mute.
Yes, you're making yourself clear. I don't know that I have a clear answer. How about that?
That's a great question. I would be concerned about that too.
Hey, then Hey, Vicky, would it be a statute or a regs review? Which one? We could do it both, right?
We can do both. Yeah, we can do both. But I think, as I already, I think was already proposed, the statutory change was already proposed. Scott was kind enough to put that together for us, so that's not the issue. I think if you guys want anything additional, like you had indicated about the market, additional market option, or local competency or whatever, that would probably need to be put in, more so before as opposed to after. You don't want it as an afterthought. I think you want it as a part of whatever your final decision is. But
so you'd want it done legislatively?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And it can be as simple as at the discretion of the commission to ask for, as you call it, I'll just say local competency appraisals or something of that nature, whichever way you term it. But yeah.
Okay, I got one. I am, as you know, and I've said this before, I'm always afraid about changing the statutes, because once we start putting a statute change on, there's other groups that try to jump onto our licensing law and make changes too. So do we have to go to statute, Vicky? Can we just keep it as a regulation thing underneath the experience credits?
I have to look at that closer.
Okay,
that's all I can
I would rather go that way.
No, well, of course, if we can do it, through the regulations, that is the easiest way to do it. I will check to make sure.
Okay. Then I'm okay, Jerry, with making a motion that we accept.
John, I'm going to have you hold off just a second, because I want open up for staff, and then any other they may have input, comments, and then the general public. Okay. And then we'll get to it here. So I open it up to staff right now. Any thoughts?
Well, my concern is also about, I've got two concerns actually. One is the cost, because it's geared towards residential appraisers who are fighting right now to establish what a highest and best highest fee would be, a market fee, customary and reasonable market. Sorry, that's what I was trying to spit out here. My thought about the program, having not seen it, I'm wondering if we can audit it, because I'm concerned about the complexity of the program. Like, what does it offer for problem solving? Because in Connecticut, as well as all of New England, we don't have cookie cutter properties here. You know, you have to go down the list. You know, what would if a buyer is looking at this style property, would they also consider this style? Would they not consider, if they wanted a 4/4, would they settle for, you know, a single level? Or what about the odd property? What about, you know, the proper, like, for instance, I did this property one time and I forget where it was. It was like in one of the northwest corners there, real rural. And I was telling Vicky this yesterday. I had driven up to the property following my GPS, and there wasn't a house. There was not a house. It was lakefront and there was not a house. So I did a U-turn in what I thought was just a turnaround, and that was their front driveway. It was all gravel. And then I look and there's the house. It was all covered, like the roof was covered with lawn. There was no roof. It was just built into the side of a hill. And honestly, that took me forever. I had to go all over Connecticut to find other unusual type houses, because typically in residential, if a person wants an unusual style house, they'll pick another unusual style. But if they want a typical 4/4 colonial, they're not going to consider that. So my thought is, or my concern is, since this is developed outside of Connecticut, what do they offer as far as problem solving? I feel in Connecticut, that's a big deal. And then, of course, getting back to the cost, because when you're a provisional and you're working under a supervisor, and yes, the supervisors are few and far between, we think. But if you're working under supervisor, you're still getting a split fee. You're still earning some money to offset all of these courses that you have to take while you're gaining your practical experience. With this, you're just putting out money and you're taking an AI course, you know, a course online, artificial intelligence course, but you're not getting any money in your pocket. It's different for a commercial appraiser because your fees are greater than residential. And that's all I have to say
Okay.
for now.
All right. Vicky, is there anything you want, or anyone else in staff who may be on? Because I just see you know, letters on here. So, you know, I'm not quite sure who's who on here. Any other thoughts by anyone here?
I have no further comment. Thank you.
Okay. Anything from the general public? I see two of them up. So, I think it's Scott. Scott, you go first here. You're in one, it says.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Good to see everyone. And I do appreciate the ongoing discussion here. Just by way of an update, our Perea program did launch last week. And on the first day, we had just about 150 people that signed up and registered and are starting the process of going through the program. There's an extensive readiness checklist that they have to go through before they can actually start the program. And most of those 150 are in the process of going through that readiness checklist now, and will be ready to actually get into the program here within the next couple of weeks. So we're really excited about the turnout that we've had so far in terms of enrollment. And those numbers were of earlier this week, so the numbers may have gone even higher than that. Unfortunately, we have had some folks from Connecticut that have wanted to enroll, and we have had to turn them away because we don't have the certainty that if they complete the program, that their certificate of completion would be accepted in Connecticut. And needless to say, those folks were very very disappointed. So I appreciate the discussion that the commission is having again. I thought we had voted on this several months ago, or that you had voted on this several months ago, but I guess that not to be the case. The question I have is, right now, if the commission takes the action that you seem poised to take, which is to say that you will accept the practical applications of real estate appraisal, is that based upon the promulgation and finalization of regulations? Or are you saying that you will accept PREA now and will consider the regulatory process on an ongoing basis, and add regulations as you see necessary as the program moves forward? And obviously, we're just looking for some clarity there so that we can enroll those folks from Connecticut as quickly as possible. And if possible, we'd like to do that now and not have to wait for the regulatory process to play out, which could be, a 12 to 18 month process. And I'm firmly of the opinion that it does not require a statutory change. I've gone through the statute numerous times, and I think that the statute does grant to the commission the authority to do this via regulation if necessary. But again, the question is, can we start enrolling people in PREA now, or do we have to wait for you all to write regulations and for that process to play out? And I honestly, I couldn't help but chuckle in terms of the geographic competency component in relation to PREA when you were back doing your experience reviews, in that you allow people to submit appraisals of properties from outside the state of Connecticut for experience review and experience credit. And PREA really shouldn't be any different. Those properties may or may not be located in Connecticut, but it's the theory, the methodologies, and the techniques that are being taught as part of the PREA program that are the most important thing, and not necessarily having that specific geographic competency, which comes over time and with experience. So I do appreciate the opportunity to make some additional comments, but I would like the clarity that if the commission does take the action to approve PREA, does that mean that it's accepted now, or is it accepted based upon the finalization of regulations related to PREA? So thank you very much. I appreciate it, and happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Thank you, Scott. I think you're going to have your answer in the next 5 to 7 minutes, if not sooner. Okay. To your question. Okay. There was a hand up by Steve. Do you still have a question, Souza? Before I
No,
saw a hand.
I think Scott addressed a couple of the issues that I was going to speak to. One is obviously competency, and we know under USPAP, you can gain competency by studying the market and doing your research and so forth. And so, I don't think whether it's geographic competency or property type, Debbie, going back to your example of the earth shelter, the house built into the ground, you got to study those kind of properties to be able to be competent to appraise them. And same with the geographical competency. So I think Scott is absolutely right. The PREA program teaches the methods and the techniques and equips the appraiser to be able to do things. The other thing, and Scott, maybe you can help me out with this one. I don't think there's anything in here that would that somebody taking the PREA program might not also be working at the same time for an appraiser performing assignments on an ongoing basis. I don't think that's mutually exclusive. Now, not necessarily as a supervisor trainee kind of thing, but being able to do some work there. I also think that you really have to think hard about if you would limit certain schools or certain PREA programs, because I don't know whether or not the state would have any restraint of trade issues there. I think once these things are approved by the AQB, then really, if they've given their approval to the PREA program, I think that that's pretty much tantamount to saying, hey, it's acceptable under all of their criteria. And that's a pretty rigorous process to get through that AQB approval process for a career program. I echo everyone's concerns about cost. It's always been the big unknown. Fortunately, there are programs like AI with their Appraiser Diversity Initiative, and the foundation is coming up with, the Appraisal Foundation is coming up with scholarship funds, which hopefully will help, you know, alleviate some of the financial burden that somebody going through this program might have. So with that, those are all my additional comments on Perea. I'd love to see you do it because I think it's going to be, all the other New England states that I've been in touch with are pretty much moving down the road, or if some have already accepted it, it would be great to have kind of a consistency from state to state here in New England. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Steve. And all right, folks, it's time here for us to go, forward. We have been discussing this till cows come home or what have you, and I think everyone's comments are real there. Again, I'll reiterate that we all have the concerns about the cost, but the market will dictate it. It gives the person, the individual person, if they want to spend the whatever the amount it is, that's their choice. And we'll see where it is. Personally, I think we should move forward with it. It's trying to address issues that we have in the marketplace, and that is we don't have people coming into the market. And the system that we have in place it was wonderful for years, but what are we at today? 60 provisionals in the state, or 40, whatever that number is. And if this is another avenue, if someone wants to get into the industry and it's on the residential and only in the residential at this point in time, well, it's their choice to go down that road. If we find something is amiss down there, we can address it, as we have done with other things in the past. But my opinion is that we got to try. We have to have a leap of faith in certain things here. A lot of money, a lot of industry thought has been put into it here, and that's just an opinion of one. And I know I don't vote, and unless there's a tie, but that's my thoughts. But it's open for anyone or any motion or lack thereof to whatever we want to do. So the floor is open to the commission members.
So I'm willing to make a motion that we accept, I'm trying to word this right, that we accept students who take a PIREA program that has been approved by the AQB or the appropriate authority in the state of Connecticut, reserving the commission the ability to later decide if we want to have those students still submit additional hours of appraisals done within our state or our local region for their final approval of their hours.
Do we have, before discussion, do we have a second of the motion put on the floor?
I'll second.
We have a second. Now we open up for discussion. John, if, say, Susie Chadwick, my made-up appraiser here, enters the program by AI, and they or whomever, whatever school, and they go through it here, we're trying to say, you go forward. Is in your motion, we're going to add another layer of rules that may or may not come into play, or are they grandfathered through? Are we trying to say, or are you trying to say, we may down the road find there might be something lacking, we have to add to it? There seems to be some gray area here.
Yeah,
and that goes back to Scott's question.
Yeah, very
Someone
good.
signs up, are they clear to run or not?
I'm saying they are clear to run to take the AQB class, and that in the state of Connecticut we will accept it. And that, but I'm also reserving the commission to continue to have discussions on this as it unfolds, to determine that if we have to have them, because it may be, let's just say, I'm going to call her Susan as opposed to Susie. Susan takes the AI class and comes through, and we start finding that there's the original classes that they offered are now being revised because they found out they're not teaching a certain thing or something like that, and they're failing our exams. All right, that we have the right to adjust that.
Okay, for Susan then, we're not going to make, because Susan goes through 18 months. Well, I forget how long the class is going to be. I just want to make sure we're on the same page here. Susan is okay, but anyone new after that then would be have to make, make this additional things if we come through it. I'm trying to be fair to whomever's coming through, so they know what the rules are.
Does it have to be a slippery slope? Can it be just a straight path with guide wires and everything? I guess I'm still on the fence about this geocompetency issue, and I know that we have reciprocity in terms of letting another appraiser from out of state come in and do an assignment. And I know I heard what Mr. DiBazio said about us accepting work from New York and Massachusetts and Rhode Island, which we have in the past, but those people have also submitted work that they've done here in the state because they're applying for licensing here in the state. But at the same time, I also remember back in the 80s, we had this organization called the Society of Real Estate Appraisers that merged into the Appraisal Institute, and they used to teach classes that were very detailed, especially on the residential side, that when you got done, I mean, you could go out and easily appraise a property. Easily. The final exam was actually appraising a property, which is what this PIREA program is actually incorporating. So they may be taking cookie cutter properties, let's say, out in a tract of land that has, 300 of the same houses, so you can easily find the houses. But by the time that trainee gets done, they're understanding the principles and the methodology, which is what our goal really is to enforce, is that they have that basis. As far as their actual experience goes, the only thing lacking there is this geocompetency thing, which I have a concern with, and because of what Debbie mentioned, that we're in a state that does not have tracts of housing of 500 units or stuff like that. I apologize for this. So that's why I think that the reserve is that over the next couple of months that we accept PIREA as it is, and then the next couple of months we can decide, okay, we're going to require them to submit maybe one additional appraisal from done on a property within Connecticut or something like that. That's my only issue here. So,
but John, I just say this: our fictitious appraiser Susan, if say we approve it, the motion here. So this is on the 13th of September. If this Susan signs up tomorrow on the 14th, they are going, and they go through the program, we're going to accept that program as is.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I want, because in fairness to these
AQB approved, yes.
Okay,
or
so then
whatever.
they are not going to be subject to another layer. What you're trying to say, we may find a shortcoming a year from now, or when we see people, we may make modifications there. Am I understanding you correctly?
Yeah, or even over the next couple of months, as
okay,
we have not reviewed the Appraisal Institute's final, and Scott, I believe is there two other organizations in the process that are getting close to finishing?
I am aware of two, and there were several other entities that had submitted concept papers to the Appraiser Qualifications Board, but we do not know if they have moved forward with development of their programs. But we know for sure that McKissick and an AMC called Option are in the process of developing programs, and that's from information that they've made publicly available. So there will be at least three, although those programs are still a ways off. So for the time being, AI PIREA is going to be the only program in the marketplace for however long it takes for those other two entities or whomever to put their programs out to market.
So
Scott, how long is your program? How long is the program?
There's no set time that someone needs to spend going through the program. We are estimating that it will take the average participant the same amount of time that it takes them to get their experience through the traditional supervisor trainee method. So 6 months for the credential that you don't have, licensed residential, and 12 months for the certified residential, which will be both the LR and the CR modules. But obviously those times are going to vary based upon a couple of different factors. One, the aptitude of the student. Some folks may pick up on the methods and techniques quicker than others, and those folks are going to be able to get through the program a little bit faster, perhaps. And of course, the amount of time that someone is able to dedicate to working through PREA. If you are only able to spend a couple of hours on the weekends every week, then obviously it's going to take that person longer than someone who can spend 8 hours a day, 5 days a week dedicated to working through PREA. So the amount of time that it takes for someone to go through the program is going to vary greatly based upon primarily those two factors.
Okay, great. I just wanted to make sure because again, with the regulations, we can submit them at any time. It may not take, 6 to 12 months for a regulation to pass. That's why I wanted to get a sense of time. Thank you.
So Scott, in other states, have they, you guys came before us and you gave us a demo several months back. Now that the course is completed, I guess my question more is to Debbie, can we require these approved AQB approved schools to submit their programs to us for review, or is that some sort of proprietary thing where they can't be disclosed or something? Or
I can tell you that there have been no other states that have required and imposed their own layer of review on individual PREA programs. Every state, all 44 of them that have now said that they will accept PREA, have said that as long as the programs are AQB approved, they would be accepted in their state. Now we are more than happy at some point to do a demonstration of the program for you, the actual program, not the video I think that we showed previously and some of the other information that we've provided. But very soon we will have someone that has a narrated demonstration of the program, and we're more than happy to share that with you. But we would have a little bit of a problem in submitting individual programs for commission approval, mainly because it is, I think, duplicative. As Mr. Souza said, the AQB process is very, very intense. It was not an easy process by any means. We went back and forth with them. They had punch list items, changes that they needed, so on and so forth. And the AQB went through our program with a very, very fine-tooth comb. And I think it would just be duplicative and add a layer of review and cost that may not necessarily or that may not be necessary.
Okay, I'm okay with that. I just wanted to make sure we had the availability if one of us wanted to, see a demo or something like that, that there was something out there that we could actually look at. Thank you.
Absolutely. We should have a narrated demonstration available sometime after the 20th of this month, and we'd be more than happy to share it.
Great. Thank you. Any other? We're in discussion. We have a motion on the table, a second. We've had a lot of discussion and opinions put forth. Anyone else to say anything more before I call the motion to a vote? Hearing none. Therefore, motion made by John, second by Jennifer. Ayes?
Aye.
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 I hear 4 ayes. Am I correct? I'm confirming that across the board.
Yes.
Okay, 4 ayes, it passes. Okay, so if our fictitious appraiser named Susan out of wherever in Connecticut wants to sign up tomorrow, she is off and running and with no restrictions and so forth to her. Okay, this has been, I want to thank everybody for the time spent on here. I know there's been moments of frustration. I know there's been moments of deep thought on the matter, And but our industry is at a crossroads, and we'll see if this works. I'm surprised that we have 150 signed up for you, Scott. God bless you. Good, and we'll see, whatever in Connecticut, but the market will dictate it. And again, if we find something, an issue or whatever, or something unintended consequences, we will address it. And that's our responsibility to do so. Your respect. So I just want to say a big thank you to everybody. Regardless of how the vote went, we really did. This wasn't quick rubber stamping anything. And I know we probably increased the amount of Tums consumption and purchases by many on this call of what we've gone through. But process is, we have moved it forward. So very good. Thank you. Moving into legal. Number one, ASC 2023 audit update. The floor is whomever wants to take it.
Well, I can say that on August 15th, 2023, the state of Connecticut provided its responses to the concerns that were raised by the ASC and their preliminary review of our state's program in April. And we are awaiting the feedback, if you will, the final report, if you will. And that's a summary.
Very good. Again, and I speak for everyone on the commission here. We thank the staff for everything you went through. I know it's not easy. Gosh darn it, it's not easy, and the paperwork and everything. So job well done. And again, it's no surprise that there are issues. We all dealt with an unscripted or whatever what I'm trying to say. We didn't have experience in what we went through with COVID. We did the best that we could given what was going on. If we had to do again, we probably would have done a few things differently, no doubt about it. But we all did it with the right intentions. Heck, if you remember our first meetings, I threw something together through our company before the state had the mechanism we had right in here. But we did what we had to do, and we used a lot of common sense, to try to get through things. So again, I can't thank the staff for enduring it and then going through it. And if they said, hey, we did this or that, okay, we did it, but we know our intentions were trying to be on the positive side. So job well done. Okay. DCP investigations, appraisal investigations, case report status. And I know you've sent that, but Debbie, do you want to give an overview, or whomever wants to give an overview on that?
Sure. Well, I closed, 3 were closed since we last met. They're timeshares, and they were just, let's see, even though we don't have jurisdiction over any of the 3 timeshares, I referred them to the Federal Trade Commission and the state of Missouri, 2 of them. And the 3rd one I referred to the Consumer Affairs Manager at that particular timeshare. I was able to get a number to give them, or, contact information, not just a number, a person, email, and phone number. As far as the open case report, I just have a number here. The total is 17. And it breaks down to 3 timeshare, 2 BPO, 12 use PAP, but 2 of them are in particular negligence that we're currently reviewing. And that's it.
Great. Any questions for Debbie from members of the commission? We thank you for the report. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now we have new appraisal licenses issued from the 13th of July to the end of August, and we see that there are any questions by members of the commission that we see before us. Okay, hearing none, thank you. I like seeing that where we're going at here, so that's great. All right, courses. We have all AQB. You can see, and if this was you, Debbie, you put this together, good job. If it was someone else, good job to whomever. because as we can see for the first time where we had 27 hours, you can see where it was struck, and we have 18 hours and so forth as we're going for us. I like that. That was nice. That's a nice little addition or wrinkle. But you have here, and I just want to make sure I understand, all have AQB and or IDEC approval unless otherwise noted. So when I look at AAL 1102, you have AQB approved only, so they just don't have the IDEC. Is that what you were trying to give us
Yes.
clarification on? Okay,
Yes.
very good. Okay, as you peruse through here, are there any issues by members of the commission on the first batch from AAL 1089 through and including APR 317? Are any modifications, additions, and so forth needed? If there are none, as presented by staff, can I get a motion to accept?
I'll make the motion.
Norris has made a motion to accept. Do I have a second? Second call for second.
Second.
John has second. Discussion by members of the commission. Hearing none. Input from staff. Input from general public. Hearing none, then I will call the question from AAL 1089 through APR 317. Ayes?
Aye.
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 Okay. John, I assume yes?
I'm an aye.
Yeah, aye. Okay, it passes for that section. Now we are at where it says no AQB or IDEC approvals, and that is AAL 1076 through, and again, please, I believe because my printer kind of went kapooey here, is it AAL 1121? I hope I'm being correct on that. If I'm in error,
Yes.
please correct me. Thank you.
Yep.
Any modifications, edits, changes needed from what has been presented before us?
I sent you a correction for oh geez, let me check my email.
Certainly. Was that AAL 1099? I see you've struck it and gone from 22 and a half to 18 hours in your,
Yes, but there was one, the 2-hour one,
oh, there was a
from
2 hour.
Jackie. Yeah, the 2-hour one from Jackie was a change in the address because I had it down as National Appraisal Institute. It's 1120, AAL 1120.
Yeah, I see it here, Appraisal Institute Connecticut chapter on the
Yes,
one
so
that you sent
you
last
have the
night.
updated one then, correct?
Okay,
And
that
then there was a question about AAL 1110 and the AAL 1114. They were both for oh no, it was 1109, excuse me, and 1110. They were both for the general. And I had corrected one for residential, which is, I think it's
the
1110.
11119 you have as a general session, and then you have 1110 residential session.
Correct. So you have the
Okay.
corrected, you have the
Yeah,
corrected.
that came out
agenda.
like yesterday, like 3:30 or 4 o'clock, something
Yeah.
to that effect. Yep.
Mhm. Yeah, they just
Okay.
made me aware of that
That's
typo
okay.
yesterday.
Okay.
And that's it.
All right. Can I get a motion from AAL 1076 through AAL 1121?
All right, wait a minute, Jerry, before we do, I got a
Yep.
question on 1076. This class
I
is
do too.
before,
Okay.
and the guy who's teaching it is not an appraiser and has no USPAP experience listed on his thing. This was an issue that came up before. I don't have an issue with any of the other classes. I went through each one of them, and I have no issues with any of the other courses.
To tack on to John's concern, my concern with it also was the exam isn't proctored. Is that something that is normal for a lot of these educational? Because that was a concern for me.
Is this CE or QE, qualification, or is this continuing education?
AAL is continuing education.
Okay. To answer your question, Jen, if there's a proctored exam, usually it's 7 hours then +1 for the exam. If they give you the exam and you're in the class, then it's part of the 7-hour component. Okay, typical. But proctor exams, they get an additional hour tacked on. So it could be a 6 in 1 or 7 in 1.
Okay.
That's historically how it's done.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So John, you want to make a motion from AAL 1090 to AAL 1121 or wanting to exclude 1076? Okay.
I'll make a motion from AAL 190 down through 1110 to be accepted. Oh, all down to 1121.
121?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we have a motion on the floor for AAL 1090 to AAL 1121. A motion. Do I get a second? I have a second. Discussion? Ayes?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Nays? Abstentions. That's approved there. What do we want to do with AAL 1076 to give some direction to staff, Debbie and Vicky and whomever?
Well,
John, real quick. Hey, John, can I ask you a quick question? Anybody, any of the appraisers. Does a non-appraiser usually teach these courses? Can they teach these courses? I just want to know. Can a non-appraiser? I wouldn't think so, but I just I'm a little bit lost why they have a non-appraiser teaching this.
Let me answer that.
Okay.
We do have that occur when we have college professors who are not appraisers do the teaching. If you're at NYU or Baruch or that type of thing. They've tried to go to it, but we've had them in the past. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, but those professors usually have some sort of training or degree in the appraising. I don't know why. I know this was an issue before, and we asked to go back. Deb, did anything happen with that, or do we just put it back on the list, or what do we? Did they say?
No, and I did send extra. I asked for extra information, and they did send his bio. I sent you everything. I can resend it to you.
No, I got it all. So
okay.
I had the bio from last time. I mean, it looks like a very thorough class as far as the outline goes. My only concern here was the gentleman who's teaching it. He was in lead paint and environmental work and everything else, and has no appraisal experience at all. But he's not even an appraiser. I mean, one of the courses that we approved, it had an appraiser on it who didn't have many years experience, but at least he was an appraiser and had taken USPAT. That's my concern here. I understand
completely. Hey, John, I understand completely.
I mean, it is Calypso, though. I mean, we've approved courses by them before.
Just table it.
Can I guess I would feel comfortable passing this class if we knew there was also somebody who was an appraiser teaching the class or available with the instructor to answer specific appraisal questions.
Okay, I will contact Calypso and let them know what your request is.
That's me. Does anybody else have that?
John, table it for next month. See what they say.
Jerry, is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. We can table into next month.
Instead of passing it with a condition, let's just table it till next month. See what they say when Debbie emails them.
All right, then that's what we'll do. We'll put it on next month's agenda. It's been tabled over. Okay, to get the answers and get a higher degree of, comfort. We're not there at this point, so that's fine. Okay. I'm looking at appraisal school approved by the department, Green Mountain e-learning, APL.98 out of 29 Stone Road, Williamstown, Vermont.
Correct. Yes, they met all the criteria in our statutes and regs, but I just wanted to get that name in the record.
Okay. Okay. So what do you need from us, Debbie? Do you need us to approve or not, or you tell me?
I don't know. I
Well,
just
to
wanted
be,
to put it
if,
down on the record that they have been
okay.
approved, so.
Okay, then therefore, if you don't need a motion, that's fine. If you want it and Vicky, please step in. Oh, she had to step out. She had
She
another
had to step
meeting.
out, right?
Let's play it safe and let's just get it on the record with a motion. Okay, and therefore, can I get a motion to accept Green Mountain e-learning?
I'll make that motion to accept Green
All
Mountain
right,
Learning.
Jen has made the motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
John is second. Discussion? Hearing none. Ayes?
Aye.
Nays, abstentions. So it's on the record, Deb,
Thank
so
you.
there's no issues whatsoever. All right, comments or concerns for any person present today? I have two other issues. Okay? Boy, it never ends, right? We had said in the July meeting led by Shauna that we were to look to try to meet in person in the October gathering, which will be October 11th. Am I correct on that?
Hmm?
In person. Cleaning out the car at some point over the summer, I came across my old badge and my flip card that got me into the parking garage and so forth. What process do we have to go through now? It's been, what do we meet in January or February of 2020? I can't remember if we had a snowstorm one of those times and we missed one meeting, but it's been 3.5 years before we meet in person, which we're going to try, going forward here, which was agreed upon. What do we do?
Karen Walsh has already been notified. She's taking care of everything that your name will be at the desk. And then I guess we are going to get you a badge
Parking
that
pass?
isn't temporary. Yeah,
Parking
parking pass and a badge that isn't temporary.
Okay. All right.
But
So that
when you
will
get
be,
there first, you'll have like the little scan tag just to let you beyond the security. And then we'll
right.
go over and get everything, but it's already been requested.
So when we come into the parking garage that first time, we just hit the button, they give us a ticket and we go in and then they validate it or
I
whatever
believe
they
so,
do.
but I will double
Okay.
check and
Okay.
yes,
Hey,
there'll be no
Jerry,
surprises, hopefully.
Jerry, you see what I remember all those years ago? There'd be that security guard out there and he'd let you in.
Yeah. Yeah. I did. Norris, we're in a whole new world again.
Yeah,
You
I
know how
know.
things change and we're
Yeah.
asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Will our
And
previous parking thing work if we still have it?
I doubt it. I have
don't-
mine in my car. I don't even want to think about it.
I'll find out. Don't worry. We have a month.
okay. All right. And now one other item here on my behalf, and there'll be others, I'm sure. This is kind of a biggie. And here we've kicked this can down the road a little bit. It's time to fish or cut bait again. And that is because of the rule change by our state legislature, as we know, our historical has been April 1st to March 30th, 31st, all these years for our CE and licensing cycle and so forth. And now we, like all licenses, we have to be done by the end of January. And the question has come up, what happens if someone takes a class on March 1st, February 15th, and what have you? And we went through the USPAT or our law class 2-3 weeks ago at the Yard Goats game, and this was a valid and brought up question from people, because we haven't made up our mind. Well, I think we have to make up our mind one way or the other. And I'll just put this food for thought to start discussion, and that is, common sense to me would be if you take it from February 1st to March 30th or whatever, April 30th, why, and if you've already met your CE before for that cycle, why shouldn't it not count going forward? So you do get the full 2 years for the next cycle. If you haven't made it, That's a whole nother cycle because we've never talked about, we had to get permission or we have to get input from the commissioner on penalties and so forth. That's a separate item. But say that John Galvin has met his 28 hours of CE, his CE for law, his CE for use PAP, but he sees a class that is the hot potato he wants to take on March 17th. You know, he goes and takes it, he learns something. John should not be penalized, in my opinion, for trying to get better, and that should count for his next cycle. I put that on the table. Tell me where my thought process is out of whack.
I would suggest that we table this until next month because Vicky had to step out. She has another meeting. Because I believe it has to do with how the regs are written. And so I would think that, you would have to abide by those dates that are in the regs. Or perhaps the second thought would be anybody who took it during those months, February 1st to April 30th, could apply to the REAC for an exception, a waiver, not a waiver, but an exception to approve. But I would feel better having Vicky.
We have been kicking this road for 2 years. The general population is quite frankly PO'd on this, that we have not made a decision. Sit in a CE class and you'll hear it over and over again. And we just keep kicking it down the road. In fairness to these people, they've got to know.
I don't believe that we can have a concrete answer right now because our legal rep is not here.
Jerry, I would think that, in light what Debbie just said, that I think that in the next month we can review the regs and make that decision and get it over with. But I would think for now that we could tell people that if they take a class, we can make this a vote that for now, temporarily, we can accept those classes on a case-by-case basis, meaning that, let's just say on March 17th, that hot potato, which would be green, by the way, that hot green potato class, and somebody submitted it, then we can do like we did before. We give Debbie, authority to approve anybody else who submits that class. And besides, that class is probably going to come before us to get approvals anyway. So at that point in time, we can say we're approving this class for credits for going forward. So until the regulations are changed, I think we can make I don't think it is an issue with us. Of course, Vicky's got to prove it. I think of making a motion that we accept them as a class by class basis.
Yeah, but John, you sure you can do that? I mean,
no,
with the way Debbie's talking,
yeah.
Before you even put it out there, what I'm saying to you is, hey Deb, why don't you speak to Vicky about this and have Vicky send us the opinion, what we can and what we can't do.
And then we make a decision definitely in the October meeting.
Yes, yeah, what we can and what we can't do. I don't want to do anything today.
And that's all. These are good points.
Mr. Chairman, I understand what you're saying. It's been 2 years. Let's make the decision next month, but give us that whether it's from Debbie, whether it's from Vicky or our guy, whoever our guy is over at the Attorney General's office. Let's have an opinion before we make that decision. Well, I'm not making the decision. We're not making the decision today. Let's make it next month.
Okay. We in May had the same discussion and we were to get it in June. In June, we were to get it in July.
Okay, it's September. We'll get it in October.
Fine.
Let's just have an advisor. I just want to, before we do anything, have it written down. I always feel comfortable like that.
I hear you, but folks, this is very embarrassing for this commission.
I
This has been, if you really get to it, this has been 4 years of kicking it down the road because we gave a 2-year extension. You ask the schools, Jackie is ready to pull her hair out because of having to put up with this. Okay. This is, I can't understand. And when you sit in that class, and John, you've taught it there, of how you can look at folks in the eye and say, well, we haven't made a decision yet. And we've been, giving warnings and so forth. At some point in time, it would seem to be there's no issue, which I found with October, but common sense has got to come into play here. Okay, if you take the class, if the state, they change the rule, then you still should be able to get your 2 years to get your cycle down. That's what the law says, folks. Okay, so they change the date, you still got to get, the time through here.
Yeah, I think the other thing I want to throw out is I don't think we have, in terms of prohibiting somebody from making money, is what we're doing. We're prohibiting these schools from offering the class at that time because no one's going to take it because it's not going to, they're not going to get credit for it. So is there a way to just make a motion? I'm just throwing this on the table to make a motion now contingent on it being approved by the DCP or something like that, that we,
John, I hear you, but probably with the concerns voiced by, Debbie and Norris, what have you, it's probably best that we, put it off another month.
yeah.
But
Listen,
I will tell you, folks, 4 years. Put that in mind. 4 years on a very simple question. And we've been told over and over and over again, we're going to get, clarification. So if when you sit in that class and you listen to folks, they are rightfully so PO'd. Okay.
I understand. Mr. Chairman, I understand. But Deb, get us a legal opinion. Have her send it to us. We'll make that decision come October finally. Done. Let's just move on after that. That's my opinion. I don't want to do anything. I really don't. I would just prefer to have her send it to all of us and come November, hey, we have a whole month to decide. And guess what? Everybody can still be mad at us for a whole month. But after that, we got clarification.
My thought is too, as with Norris, a month is not going to make that much of a difference in four, if you've been waiting 4 years, month is not going to make that much of a difference. And since there's other reg changes coming up because of the AQB requirement for the new course, it's kind of, we're going to be doing it all at once. I would think that we can't put anything out there of a legal nature without our legal rep present. And secondly, I feel that if they do take these courses, because it's not mandatory courses that you're talking about, it's just if they want to take CE between February 1st and April 30th, what's to stop them from just coming before the board, the commission rather, and getting approval? As with the other people that take a course someplace that hasn't been approved, and you hear it out, you see the materials, and you give approval. So I would think it would fall under the same category. My third thought, and for the final, would be that if you approve something contingent upon whatever happening, I feel that sometimes people hear what they want to hear and they might just hear approved and then that's it. They won't hear the rest of the sentence. And I feel that that is going to open up a huge can of worms come CE time when it's due in 2026. And that's all I have to say on that.
Good. Okay, so it sounds like do you really think we'll have a final answer in October? When we were told in March, we'd have it in April. In April, we'd have it in May. In May, we'd have it in June.
But it's not.
You stand up in front of these folks in the industry, and John's shaking his head. He's been there with the class. He understands fully. Okay.
I understand too. I've been there.
And I
I've
also
been there.
don't think this is a law thing, folks, but we'll go down that road. It's not a law thing from what I've been told. It is not. It is, on the CE we're going, but I'm going to say no more. Okay. Okay. So please add it to the agenda in
I
October.
will.
May I
Yes,
ask a
Jen.
question just for my own edification, just because I'm new? Has the holdup up to this point been just being able to get the actual legal opinion? Is that our only holdup? I just want to be able to make sure I understand the
I
history.
believe so.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Anything else to come before us?
I got two quick things. One, have we been assigned an attorney from the Attorney General's office yet? And can that be disclosed to us? And this, or is that something we're going to find out by October?
Vicky has that for you. I am not at liberty to discuss that since it's of a legal nature.
Okay. So can we put that on the agenda for October so we get that?
Yep. Yes, sir.
And then
So we could actually, and so Debbie, so we could actually meet him to know who it is.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
So the next question I have is this is just a technical thing that I'm always confused on. And this has to go back to Ryan Johnson's reports real quick. This is a technical question, not a question about his work. But he signs his reports in Connecticut. He signed them as Connecticut Certified Residential Appraiser, and then he puts his RCR number on. In Massachusetts, he does the same thing, Certified Residential Appraiser and his thing. So the first part of it is, aren't we still supposed to be putting our expiration date when we sign on our reports? And the second part is, if he's submitting this work for experience credits or whatever, does he sign it as a residential appraiser or does he sign it underneath his provisional?
He's not a provisional. He's stepping up from RCR.
So he doesn't have to put in, that's my answer there. Okay, so the next question is, do we have to put the expiration date? Is that a part of our?
The way the law was written, John, you have to have it in the report.
You have to have the expiration date in the report. So if they stick their license in the report,
that is exactly. That's how it's been interpreted all these years.
Alarm module periodically. Okay.
Yep. If it's in the as long as the copy of the license is in there, and we got an attorney general's ruling on that years ago. Okay, so the way our statute is written, as long as you have it in the report.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for clearing that up. That's all I have.
Yep. Anything else? Anyone? Great. Good meeting. Debbie, anything else on cleaning up things?
No, I was just seeing if I could quickly find where our statute or regs reference the CE cycle. I know it's written down here. I saw it someplace, but there's so many different things. I'll follow up and send it to you.
Very good. If there's anything, oh, we got two hands. Think of it. Okay, Miss Jackie.
I just want to confirm that the meeting in October will only be in person and you don't plan on having a Microsoft Teams link for people to join in virtually?
That is correct.
Thank you.
And David Sell, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Jerry. It's been a long time. Please excuse my ignorance.
Lord,
Commission.
it has been a long time.
It has. Please excuse my ignorance as I'm not familiar with your meetings. We had put a class in for approval. Debbie, was that part of a group approval of courses that was in?
What class are you referring to?
The use PAP and the appraisal law, getting our school approved.
If you had put a course through prior to when the deadline for this agenda, then it's on this agenda.
It was, okay. I just didn't hear it specifically, but I think it was part of a group.
No, because, right, yeah. Well, if you look online, right, we have the agenda posted. So you can look online and get that information.
Terrific. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody.
All right. Very, very good. Any other questions? Great. Good discussions, good commentary. Can I get a motion to adjourn? John, your lips move, but nothing came out. You're on mute.
I'll make a
I'll make
motion.
a motion.
Okay.
Okay,
Second,
and Norris, the second. Ayes,
Aye.
Aye.
days. Thank you, everyone, and we will see each other in person next month.
Hey,
Take
just
care,
to let
Awesome.
you
everybody.
know, I'll
See
be
you then.
flying
Thank you
in
so much.
from Portugal the night before. I changed my trip to come to the meeting, but if I'm not here, it's because I just got delayed. The second thing, Deb, real quickly, what's the deadline for people to submit stuff for the next meeting? I got 2 provisionals that are gonna.
Actually, I have to submit, the agenda to, the board secretary. And she emails me. It changes, obviously, because the days of the month change. But what I try to do is, I'm just looking at the calendar here. Give me a moment, please. So the next meeting is on the 11th. And she would probably need finalization for any corrections, but that's internally on the 2nd. So I try to go for like the 22nd to the 25th in that area. That way it gives time to add everything to the agenda that needs to be. So I would say like,
20 seconds, fine. Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
If I could just chime in, this is Rochelle here, the new board coordinator. Typically I try to get like the final agendas out a week ahead of the scheduled meeting. So if that's kind of helpful for your scheduling moving forward, as long as I have about 7 days before the meeting to get everything up and posted and sent out to the right people, then that works great for me. But I'm also I can change as needed if you need a little extra time or anything along those lines. So.
Okay. Yeah, but once it's submitted, that's it. Because we get, we'll get applications for new courses, what have you, the day before the meeting. We can't do that.
I know this is so much easier when
Yeah,
getting it ahead
it's
of
more
time.
efficient.
It's just more
Absolutely.
efficient. Last minute stuff was always an issue. Thank you.
And you've done a great job getting it to us, especially given what we just went through for 2 months. So appreciate it. All right, then. Thank you, folks. Be good.
Right,
Enjoy
everybody.
fall.
Have a great day.
Bye.
See you
Thank
next
Take care,
month.
everybody. See you next month.
Bye-bye.